Well, Jeremy, we talked on the phone a number of times, and I remember bumping into you at the store in Toronto, but this is the first time we've really sat down and talked sneakers since the sneak peek episode.
George, it has been a long time. I appreciate you still coming over to the house for the sneak peek, but we haven't had much contact really. It was a pleasant surprise to run into you up in Toronto at Livestock. But yeah, a lot has happened, obviously. World Series, San Francisco, but I've been trying to stay low since I ran into you in Toronto. I've been doing my sneaker thing, grabbing some hot kicks and doing the normal thing. And I see you've been doing a lot of work as well.
Yeah. And now you're obviously in a different mindset with your recent announcement of your retirement. Tell me about that.
Yeah, obviously a very tough decision. I think you look back throughout my life, sneakers have really been a part of it since I can really remember, probably 6, 7 years old, growing up in Oregon and watching Michael Jordan kind of come out of college into the pros and see the Air Jordan line take off and then Nike basketball do its thing. You do it for that long, you do it for 25 years plus, it takes its toll. And at some point in time, you really got to decide what's best for you in your future and where your priorities are. And for me, it took some soul searching, but I'm really at peace with the decision going forward to step away from the sneaker game, and I think it'll be good for me.
And what will you miss most about the game?
Wow. I mean, the shoes themselves is what I'm going to miss the most, obviously. The new stuff that comes out, the stories that are told, kind of stepping away from that day-to-day grind of seeing what's coming out and kind of looking at the schedule and preparing how I'm going to try and get those shoes. I'm going to miss that.
Right. Now let's start at the beginning of your career and kind of go through it. Who was the most influential in getting you into sneakers?
Well, like you said, it's a long history. So I can remember, the first pair of shoes I had that really captured my attention. And this was the first time I really got a sneaker that wasn't bought at Payless Shoe Source, and that was the Air Jordan 1. And for me and my size, it was a Sky Jordan. I remember seeing my brother, his 9th grade basketball team, Joe Lane Junior High School in Roseburg, Oregon, red, white, and black team, they had the Air Jordan 1. And I wanted to be like my brother, and so I was fortunate my parents bought me a pair of the Sky Jordans. I don't even know what retail would have been on those, probably $30, $35 would be my assumption. But I treated those things like gold. I think after that, the first time I can remember really, again, having those kind of desires and those feelings for sneakers was the Air Jordan 3. And my oldest brother, again, Paul, had the Air Jordan 3 black and cement. And he had them in his closet down in the basement where his room was. And I remember I used to sneak into the room, open up that closet, slide the door open, and jump into the box and grab them. And I actually brought a pair here, but I thought this was fascinating. You obviously had the elephant print, which was so much different, but more than anything, it was that air pocket, that window right there. And this creation of Tinker Hatfield, it revolutionized the sneaker world. And certainly for me, as a 9-year-old at this point in time, when I saw this, I'm like, wow. That is really cool. And you see what Michael does. He goes out, wins the dunk contest in that shoe, the white one, of course, white cement, jumps from the free throw line again, as he had in '87 in Seattle's dunk contest, but this one was in Chicago. He's the hometown favorite, wins the dunk contest in that shoe the next day. In the All-Star game, he wears the black and cement colorway. Outside of the athletes, who I think make the shoes and make the shoes, mean something to every kid that gets a chance to wear them. I had some really good friends early on that had an appreciation for the sneaker game. I got a chance to pick their brains, talk about shoes with them, and develop my own love and passion for it even further than I already had. One teammate in particular that comes to my mind is Eric Crozier. Eric and I played together in Akron, Ohio, 2003. And he had a strong love for the Jordans and sneakers in general, so we used to always talk, go to the spots together and check out Finish Line or Foot Locker, Champs, whatever it was. Another teammate was David Risky. David Risky is Jordan brand head to toe in all things, golf, basketball, baseball, doesn't matter, but David just wants anything that has to do with Michael Jordan. So he was there. And then another guy, his name is Jim Dizikowski, lives out in Buffalo, New York. He was a Finish Line manager at the time when I played there in AAA. And over the 2-3 seasons I was in Buffalo, we connected a number of times, whether it's at the game or at his workplace, and just talking kicks, and he had hundreds and hundreds of pair himself.
You started off playing in high school and you were wearing pretty much anything, like the original kicks on court guy.
Absolutely. Back in those days, you know, I talked about the one. This is my bedroom here when I was probably 11 years old, actually. You see in this corner, you see this, my Air Jordan 5. That's a shot right there with my mom's camera that I took, printed out at the local Buy Mart, and then put it on my wall. Like, that's how much that shoe meant to me. So, you know, you see it. This is obviously not the original one that I had, but the Air Jordan 5. And you had that reflective tongue that was just out of this world. You're like, you know, why is this thing glaring on me now because I'm putting a flash on it or a light? You know, after that Air Jordan 1, this was the next one that I got, Air Jordan 5, and hooped in it when it tore. You know, I did what a lot of kids did back in those days, and you know, this might be something that people don't remember, but back in those early days, 80s, early 90s, and maybe it's still true today, I'm not sure, but when a sneaker broke or ripped or tore, you had any problem, you sent it right back to Nike to Beaverton, and boom, you know, a couple weeks later, you got a brand new pair of kicks. And so I did that, I'm sure, a few times when I was a youngster, and I remember my Air Jordan 5 tore right there in the toe box, and I sent it out, and I ended up with an Air Jordan 7. You take me to my high school years, and at that point, you know, you start to have maybe a job that allows you to maybe buy a pair or two on your own. You know, I remember for me, watching the Fab Five, first in the Final Four against Duke, you know, they're wearing the Huarache, all of them. And you're like, what is that shoe? You know, and it's white and got that purple and black, and it's just glaring out there. I think that Final Four was played in Minneapolis. And you see it on that court, and you're like, wow, that's dope, I need a pair of those. And then the next year they followed up against Carolina, and they're wearing the Barkley. And you're like, and they got the black socks with the Nike in the front, the baggy shorts, of course, again. I remember my senior year, I played in a pair of the Penny 2s, both colorway, the black as well as the white and blue. You know, a big shoe for me my senior year, also that I loved was this Jason Kidd, the Zoom Air. You know, and commonly referred in my circle of friends as kind of the alien eye shoe. As well as this Air Jordan 11. Black and red. You know, I bought this shoe, I remember it vividly. You know, I was in Hawaii, spring break, 1996, I believe, my junior year, and they had it. And I remember the biggest thing I was concerned about when I bought the shoe was it didn't come in an Air Jordan box, which like shocked me. I'm like, well, you know, it's got this kind of gray or whatever, the cardboard color and red, and it was a Nike box. I'm like, why is this a Nike box? And I think the Jordan brand did that for that and the 12 as well. But in high school, it was a chance to kind of express yourself on the court, kicks on court, you know, put something on. I remember my last game of my high school career, the first half I wore one pair of shoes, the second half I wore a different pair of shoes. You know, I wore the white and obsidian Air Up Tempos that Ray Allen kind of, for me, made famous while he was at UConn. And then the second half I flipped into the Concord 11. And, you know, I didn't really do him much respect or justice because I scored, I think, 5 points in that game. But I felt good. Both my junior and senior year of prom, I wore Air Jordan 11s. The junior year, I wore black and red. You see here in this picture, I wore the black and white Concord with a kind of a more traditional tuxedo. And so, you know, was doing those things that you see so often today. You know, I was doing that 17 years ago, 18 years ago as a youngster growing up in Oregon.
What ignited you to be the best in the sneaker game? What channeled your collecting?
I think just it came from within. You know, I think every time you see something out there that releases or a beautiful shoe, you want to have it. You want to be the first one to get it. You want to be the first one to sport it, and you know, kind of be a trendsetter in that way as much as you can. So, you know, I think that's really what it was. It just kind of came from within. I wanted to have it, and I wanted to keep it clean. I wanted to have it for years, you know, not just for a couple of months where it gets all banged up, but I wanted to be able to bring it back out. Like, I feel like when I was a youngster, like I had kind of the vision of a retro, even though I didn't, right? Like I was the kid trying to wear something 3 years later and have it in great condition. And now we get that opportunity, you know, because they retro shoes so often. But back in those days, I had that vision.
Let's get into the memorable moments of your career. The Max Orange cleats on the mound, also the foam positive cleats. Describe what went into the thoughts of, you know, wanting to be different and doing custom cleats.
Well, yeah, like you said, there's, you know, as a baseball player, we don't get as much freedom, I don't think, to express ourselves in terms of footwear because, you know, cleats and spikes are pretty limited as to what options are out there. Certainly, there's a lot more today than there ever was when I began my career back in 2002. But I remember wearing wanting to be a Jordan brand athlete. I want to represent the Jordan brand and, quote unquote, become legendary in what you do and put the work in and try and be, be like Mike. So, I think the Max Orange was the first colorway that I'd ever seen in an Air Jordan, and maybe still to this day, that had the black and orange like the Baltimore Orioles when I was playing there during those 5 years. And so it was a no-brainer. The thing I kind of remember about that was A.J. Burnett, now pitching with the Pittsburgh Pirates again, looking across the field in the dugouts and kind of pointing to the shoes and, kind of giving me like a, what's up with those crazy shoes type of look. And, as a sneakerhead, you live for that. That kind of brings it all to a circle and you feel like, yeah, this drew some attention. This is nice. The sneaker, that's what I want to do. You talked about the foam posit. And, ironically, I pitched in this shoe again in Baltimore, now as a member of the Kansas City Royals. And there was a number of reasons on that, but, first and foremost, that blue and gray colorway of the foam posit came out. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have this much blue on the upper. With the Kansas City Royals, where we're blue spikes, perfect fit. With the gray as the secondary color, I said it's got to be a road shoe. And then being a foam posit, up that I-95 corridor in Baltimore, DC, I said, you know what, it's got to be worn in Baltimore since I'm not pitching in DC. So, I think I put the comment in the post I put on Instagram, bringing the foam home. It was great.